that are watching us on Rogers TV. As you can see, Mayor Boddy is not with us tonight, but he will be back. So we had a closed session at 6:30 tonight. Council reviewed the minutes of the closed meeting held on August 13th, 2018, and Council reviewed one matter regarding labor relations or employee negotiations respecting fire negotiations and received the report for information purposes. And Council reviewed one matter regarding a personnel matter about an identifying individual, including municipal employees, respecting a performance review, and provided further direction to staff. Is there any additional business tonight, staff? No. Councillors over here, anything? Count Travis, and it is?
Thank you, Worship. It's just an announcement about the next Young Professionals Network.
Thank you. Peter? Richard, over here. Marion?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wright. I have given staff a heads up on this one. I will be asking for a status on the 3rd Ave East Road closure by the water treatment plant.
Okay. Anyone else? I have one matter regarding letter writing to council. Okay. Anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest? Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Acting Worship. I declared a pecuniary interest on a matter on the in-camera agenda to do with fire negotiations, as I am employed as a firefighter.
Thank you. Confirmation of council minutes on August 27th.
Sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor O'Leary, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held August 27th, 2018, as printed, be adopted.
All those in favor? That carries. Minutes of the August 13th.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor O'Leary, that the minutes of the closed session of council meeting held on August 13th, 2018, as printed, be adopted.
Thank you. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. Motion to move council into committee of the whole.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor O'Leary, that City Council now move into committee of the whole to consider public meetings, deputations, and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and other additional business.
Thank you. All those in favor? That motion carries. There are no public meetings tonight. We do have a presentation, and one I'm sure we're all looking forward to, and that is our clerk, Brianna Broomfield, will talk to, and our deputy clerk, Curtis Law, will talk to us on voting in the municipal elections.
Deputy Mayor Wright, members of council, and members of the public. The municipal election is fast approaching. If you're looking for election information, we have lots of ways to get that information. We have our website at www.owensoundvotes.ca. On the website, you can find information about our help centers, or you can find out who the candidates are. You can also check to see if you're on the voters list, and there's lots of other interesting information on there as well. We also have an election helpline. The number to call is 376-4440, extension 2018. That's available during regular office hours at this time. And during the voting period, we'll have extended hours, which will be 8:30 a.m. till 8 p.m. during weekdays. As well, you can always attend the clerk's office, and we'll be happy to help answer any questions you might have. The voting period starts October 12th at 10 a.m. and ends October 22nd at 8 p.m. And during that time, you can vote 24 hours a day. Voting methods. For the first time, we're using internet and telephone. Individuals can cast their vote from the comfort of their home or anywhere they can access the internet or touch-tone telephone. Some examples of items that you can use include the computer, tablets, smartphones. No rotary phones can be used, however, and of course there's going to be no paper ballots. Individuals need to be on the voters list to vote. Individuals can check the city's website or attend City Hall to see if they are on the voters list. Individuals can visit the clerk's office with identification to register or amend information on the list. And alternatively, individuals can begin the process through the election website at owensoundvotes.ca. A couple times I have been asked if I show up at a help center with identification, can I vote? And the answer is yes. We're going to have lots of help centers throughout the voting period to assist voters. We've got City Hall open. It will be available from 8:30 till 4:30 on weekdays, and then on voting day it'll be open until 8 p.m. On the first Saturday, we're going to be attending the Legion from 10 till 6. On the Sunday, we'll be at the Rec Center from 10 till 4. The next Saturday, we'll be at the Mall from 10 till 6, and then the Bayshore will be there on the Sunday and the Monday. At the Help Center, individuals can get added to the list, or they can also vote using the tablets, but we will not be having telephones at the Help Centers. We'll also be attending all institutions and retirement homes throughout the voting period, and staff will be attending Georgian College on October 17th from 2 to 4. At Georgian College, this is just available for those students due to the parking restrictions at the facility. Voters need to have a voter notification letter in order to vote, which will be mailed the first week of October. The voter notification letter includes the following: instructions, voter credentials, which is your voter ID number and your personal identification number, as well as a list of candidates. I do have a sample here of our voter notification letter. It is a bit small, but as you can see on the left, you've got the instructions, and then on the right-hand side, we've got where the help centers are located. About partway down, we've got the voter ID and PIN number. Below that, we have the voter qualifications, and then contact information if you're requiring assistance. And then on the back, we have a list of all the candidates. If an individual does not receive a voter notification letter in October, they need to visit the clerk's office or help center with identification to confirm registration status and receive the letter. ID needs to show their name and qualifying address. A picture and signature are not required. So for instance, you could just have a hydro bill and we would accept that. Who can vote? Any person who on election day meets the following qualifications is eligible to vote. They must be a Canadian citizen, 18 years old, reside in the city, or is the owner or tenant of land in the city, or the spouse of such a person. They must also not be prohibited by law from voting. Who is being voted for? You can vote for 1 mayor, 1 deputy mayor, 7 councillors, and 1 school board trustee. The English separate trustee and the French separate trustee have both been acclaimed, so if you're someone who would be typically voting for that trustee, you will not have that on your ballot. I'm now going to turn it over to Curtis, who's going to walk you through the voting process.
Okay, thanks, Brianna. We have two, as Brianna had laid out, we have 2 methods of voting. The first is internet voting. On your voter notification letter, we're going to be providing a link to the secure voting site, and it's very key that because it's a paper letter that you're holding in your hand, it will have the address that you actually put into the address bar of your browser. I say this only to differentiate it from putting it into a Google search. It's very important for the public to realize that you will need to put the actual internet address right in the browser's address bar. You cannot search for Owen Sound's voting site. It's a security feature of the site. So I'm just gonna go through that. Once you've typed that in and have accessed the site, I'm just gonna go through sort of the steps as far as a voter would see if they're using internet voting. Step 1, as you put the site into the address bar, you'll have a choice of whether you want to receive your ballot in English or in French. Once you've chosen, You'll have a general entry screen, which basically has one option, which is click here to vote. At this time, I'll just draw attention to, I know they're very small and hard to see, but on the right-hand side of the white square, you'll see 3 gray buttons up at the top. The first on the left is a switch to English and French. So even if you've chosen English to go in and suddenly you remember that, hey, you took French immersion for 12 years and you want to give that a go, you can always switch over at any time and receive French instructions. The next one over is the text size increase. So if you are looking at the screen and the text seems too small and you'd like to increase a little, that's how you would do so. And the last one is this is a contrast option, so you can actually receive your ballot with black as the background and white text as an alternative to white and black text. So once you've clicked on click here to vote, you'll be at step 3, which is the login page. As Brianna had gone through the requirements, this is where you'll see them. So there are 3 text boxes at first, and they just go downward. So the first one is your voter ID. Again, this will be on your voter notification letter. The PIN is next, which will also be on your voter notification letter. And the third is year of birth. This is a piece of information that the voter will actually be providing themselves. If you're registering to get on the list, this is the type of information you'll provide to access the system. Below that is the CAPTCHA challenge. This is to prove that you're not a robot accessing the website. It's important to note this is not case sensitive, so anyone typing in what they see there, in this case we see 4CATMO. If you would like, the blue button's right beside the CAPTCHA challenge. There's a refresh button, so if you don't like the one you're looking at, you'd like another one, you can refresh. Or there's an audio option that will actually read it out to you, and you would just have to type in what you see. But once again, not case sensitive. Doesn't matter whether you put it in all capitals or lowercase. It will work. So once we put in our credentials, just before we receive our ballot, there is an oath that the voter will have to accept if they'd like to receive their ballot. This is a listing of all the offenses of asking the voter to accept that they are not causing an offense or voting twice or committing any other corrupt practice, and taking one more time confirming the oath of qualification that they are, in fact, 18 years, a Canadian citizen and a resident of the city of Owen Sound. So once you pass that point, you're actually looking at the ballot. And up at the top of the screen is what we call a progress bar that would outline the steps of which one you are on. The current one you are is highlighted black. You'll always have instructions at the top of the page, and you'll be looking at the contests that you are voting in. The first one will be mayor, the second one will be deputy mayor, third will be councillor, and fourth, if you have a school support race, will be the school support. So in this case, voting for one mayor, the ballot will not let you overvote, although you can undervote. So you can choose not to vote in any race that you don't want to. But once you click a choice, the rest will gray out. It won't allow you to overvote on any one section. Below the race in question, you'll see gray buttons here that are next contest, and to the very far right is a big green button that says review completed ballot. If you'd like to go to simply the next contest, so after you're done with mayor and you'd like to move to deputy mayor, you'd simply hit the gray button for next contest. You can hit the green button at any time, but it is readying you to cast your ballot as though you are done. If you were to go to cast your ballot after, say, voting in only one race or 2 races, this is the review stage, and it's what we call step 6. Whether you voted in all races or not all races, it will simply provide the ballot one more time for you to review all your choices. You can go back and change if you'd like. It also provides, as you can see, the orange warning is just simply a text that says you happened to have undervoted or not voted in this one. Are you sure? And at this point, it gives the voter one last chance to decide whether they want to make any changes or cast their ballot. Once you've hit cast ballot, it will say thank you for voting, and you will be done. You can X out of your browser, and you will have completed the process and not be able to vote again. The other main method beyond internet voting is telephone voting. Very similar to the internet. You'll call a number that will be provided to you on your voter notification letter. You input voter credentials as the instructions are read out to you. So you listen to the commands. You use your touchpad, whether you're using a smartphone or other touchpad device, to make your selections. And again, it provides you an opportunity to review and change selections also. While we are testing both systems now, we have found that telephone voting does take a little bit longer. So the people in the public who are interested in telephone voting should just know it just does take a little longer to get through all the choices simply because you're hearing someone read the instructions to you. So at this point, Madam Deputy Mayor, Brianna and I would be happy to answer any questions the council might have.
Okay, thank you. Marion?
Thank you. Couple of questions on the retirement homes. How will that be handled? First of all, tell me what's going to happen at a retirement home.
Sure. The legislated retirement homes in Owen Sound each have a help center at a dedicated time in the voting period. So we have scheduled times at each one. This includes everything from the hospital to all the different retirement homes. Each have a specific day, and we're going in morning and afternoon to make voting available for the residents there.
So you'll have a station set up, and they would come to your station?
Very, very similar to your traditional voting station, but they are a help center, so they're designed the same way with tablets and everything like that for them to access the system.
And what if the individual is not on the list? How do they handle that?
If they're not on the list, we can add them at that point.
And then they're given a PIN at that time?
That's right, correct.
Right up until voting time?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, the other question is, on the phone, if an individual has undervoted, say for the council positions, and they want to go back in and add another one, how does that get handled? Do they have to start all over again, or does it tell them who they haven't voted for?
They don't have to start the entire process over, but it'll start at the beginning of that contest. So it would start reading from the beginning of councillors.
So if they have already selected 6 of them,
Yeah.
and they want to select one more, when they go back to the beginning of that, all those 6 are wiped out and they start all over again?
So if they've already selected 6 and they wanted to select one more, they would start reading from the top of the list, but not include the ones that have already been chosen.
The phone would read them back,
Yes.
the ones,
They wouldn't
That
read the
were
one.
left.
Yes.
okay, thanks.
Peter, Councillor Lemon?
Yes. When, with the council race where there are 7 positions, if someone wants to, say, vote for a single candidate, they still can, obviously.
Correct.
And then once they press whoever's name or indicate, and they're finished voting, how at that point do they exit from that? Because it's not the full slate.
So if you've selected one counselor and
Yes.
you just hit next contest, and then at the review stage, it'll identify the fact that you've undervoted, but you would just hit cast your ballot. You don't have to do anything further.
Yeah, I don't like the term undervoted. You have voted for whom you want.
Sorry, correct, yes.
Yeah, and so you hit next, and then that'll take you to the school board if
Right.
you're able to vote for the school board.
Yes.
The other question has to do with students who are of age and are living out of town right now, but they still are eligible voters, are they not?
Yes, they're actually able to vote both where they're going to school and where they would normally reside. They can vote in both places.
Right. But if they're not on the voters list, what happens then?
Well, they would need to contact us before the voting period to get added to that list. So if they were home, say on the Friday of Thanksgiving weekend, we could get them their voter notification letters to bring with them to school so that they could vote when they're away at school.
However, if they're not home at that time, they could do it over the internet?
During the voting period, they would need to get a voter notification letter prior to that voting period. But if they were home during the voting period, yes, we could help them.
No, what I mean, if they're not home during any of this time, and they want to get placed on the voters list, can their parents get them on the voters
No.
list? So they have to phone City Hall,
Yes.
or you can register online too, though, can you?
We would need to see them in person.
you'd be able to register online up until the 12th, however, correct?
You still need to come in and show us your identification in order to get the voter notification letter.
Okay, sorry.
So if they're out of town continuously, they're not going to be able to vote.
Yes.
They're disenfranchised. There's got to be a way around that.
Hopefully, they're already on the voters list and they'll receive their letter. If they've already been added to the list from MPAC, then there will be no issue.
But if they haven't, they will have to be it.
I would suggest they contact the clerk's office and we can have a discussion on options available to them.
But right now, you don't think they'll be able to get on the voters list?
Well, we're trying to get the message out so that if people are home, that they can try to get on the list when they're home.
Yeah, but I just was wondering, because that's unfortunate that the way it's set up.
Yeah, Councillor
Just a quick
Thomas.
follow-up to that, is this isn't any different than it would have been if we
No.
were on paper ballots?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyway, yeah, Councillor Gregg.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Wright. Two questions. One is at seniors' residences, can and how does a family member assist a loved one with voting in the long-term care center?
Well, if it's at a help center, they could bring their loved one to the help center, and we have an oath that they just need to read out, and then they can take them to the tablet and help them vote.
Okay, and second question. When we considered this 3 years ago, there was definitely not any consideration of a postal strike if that was to happen. What plans and how closely are we watching? It's noted that we're going to mail these out in the first week of October. What plans might we have should something that unfortunate occur?
We have been keeping an eye on this situation, and in speaking with Dominion Voting, who are the ones who mail out our letters, they've indicated that this would be a province-wide situation, so they're quite confident that there shouldn't be any interruptions. But it is something that we are monitoring, and should something develop, then we will make a backup plan that to ensure.
Is that it? Any more questions? Oh, okay, okay, I have Councillor McManaman.
Sorry, and so just to recap, if there's someone sitting at home right now that doesn't know what a tablet is, doesn't know what a browser is, isn't quite sure what a PIN code that you're talking about is, but still wants to vote, they're uncomfortable with this whole system that you've just described, they can attend one of these.
I encourage them to attend a help center, or we've also met with the library. The library staff is also able to help. And
So on the dates and times that are listed there, they can show
Yes.
up at one of those centers, the Bay Shore and the other ones
Yep.
you've mentioned, and there'll be somebody there that can help them with this, that can walk them through this. They aren't going to
Definitely.
just show up and say, here's a tablet, and they've never
Oh, no.
used a tablet before, they don't even know what it is. There will be staff there to assist them with this
Definitely.
process, is that correct?
yes,
Because you do hear from some people, sometimes it's seniors or people that aren't as experienced with computers, they're a little nervous about this. So we just want to emphasize that you go to one of these help centers during the dates and times listed, there will be somebody there to assist you with
Yes.
this process.
definitely.
Thank you.
Councillor Kepke.
The other thing that I wanted to also mention is if someone is hospitalized, they can always vote from the telephone at their hospital bed.
Yes.
In the past, there's been stations and staff assisted at hospitals, but that's not being taken away from anyone. That opportunity is still there, correct?
Okay, thank you. First of all, the list that showed where the help centers are will be advertised in the paper, online, or how?
Yes.
So that people can cut it out and hang on to it?
Yes.
Okay. Proxy votes, is there such a thing in this as a proxy vote?
Not with this method of voting, no.
Not with this method of voting. Okay. And could you repeat the telephone number for City Hall?
It's 376-4440, extension 2018.
That should be easy enough to remember.
We hope so.
4440-2018. 519 before that. Okay, is there anything else? Now, to remember to the public, if you have any questions or concerns, to call that number, 376-4440, extension 2018. Thank you very much. This is very informative, and I'm quite sure it's helped a lot of us. Thank you very much, Brianna. Okay. Public question period. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to ask a question of this council? Please state your name and address.
Bill Twaddle, 2771 9th Avenue East. I apologize, I had intended to sit quietly in the corner and observe, but Councillor Lemon has raised an issue which I find shocking, to be quite blunt, to learn that university students, college students, people who are traveling have suddenly been disenfranchised because if they're not on the voters list, they're not going to receive the document that allows them the right to vote. In the past, at the municipal level and currently at the federal level and the provincial level, people who live outside the country but have the right to vote can register and vote by mail. They've been given those options. This is really, I believe...
Mr. Twaddle, do you have a question
I'm
there?
getting to it, Your Worship.
Okay.
Thank you. This is really a significant flaw in this voting system. Anybody who turned 18 since the last election may not be on the list. They may not realize that until they've gone away to school, and they may not be planning to come back. This, I believe that this needs to be addressed, and so my question is, what will council do to make sure that these students, or anybody else who has to be out of town for a period of time and was not aware of this new provision, how will they be dealt with? This is a serious issue, I believe. Thank you.
Before I ask the clerk to answer that, I do want to say that the clerk's department did run information sessions before any of these students went back to school. If anyone was interested, they could have attended one of these sessions and gone. Now I'll ask our clerk to answer that.
Through you, Acting Mayor Wright. You did mention that this is new, but in fact, this isn't new. They have been, this is how individuals vote. They need to be on the voters list. You mentioned vote by mail. They wouldn't receive anything by mail if they're not on the voters list. So it would be the same situation. Individuals need to be proactive and get added to that list so that they're able to vote.
Thank you. Councillor Koepke?
Just a further question. Will there be any additional advertising on this, or hopefully the media will pick up on this particular issue?
Madam Clerk?
We have been advertising on Facebook and media and through media releases about getting onto the voters list, and we also have another information session on September 29th as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lemon?
Well, first of all, at what time did a student or anyone have to realize that they were or were not on the voters list? When was the last date you could register to be on the voters list that you have now?
I think these questions have already been answered.
Your Worship, with all due respect, Councillor Twaddle raises a very interesting issue, and disenfranchisement concerns me. There's got to be some way, because when students went away in first week in September, there may not have been focus on the election, and then they may decide. But that's a right to vote, and that's a sacred right.
I'm quite sure you want to say.
Is this the same in all municipalities?
Yes, it would be.
Yes, it is.
It's the law. It's the same. It comes from the Election Act. It's the law.
For
Did you
municipal
want to
elections,
speak,
but not
City Manager?
provincial elections.
If I could, Your Worship, I think we have to go back to the understanding of the voters list, and it is provided to the clerk's office originally from MPAC. So MPAC, certainly has put a lot of effort into maintaining their voters list. I believe the people, MPAC has that information of who is a resident, even though they're away at school. Any who may be away or who may be traveling, students or other individuals. I think the clerk's office in Owen Sound, but throughout Ontario, has certainly tried to publicize this method we're using is used by most municipalities in Ontario. There is no guarantee in any system that some individuals may be missed. But in Owen Sound, as well as most other municipalities, we have done everything we can to try to minimize that number. And I believe MPAC is certainly, from several years ago, has improved their voters list as well. So I think the clerk will certainly be observing this election, and we're certainly looking for follow-up. But we can't create new voting methods in Owen Sound at this point in the process, in spite of what the province may think. So,
Thank you very much. Councillor Gregg.
Just a quick question on fall to Ms. Bloomfield's expertise in this, but being that you're in a legislated position, and I'll use an example of our own Georgian College, if there was a student from outside of Owen Sound, is there something in law that would prohibit them from visiting you in the Owen Sound municipality and then having you confirm their voter eligibility and then communicating back to that other municipality? So let's say they were from Oshawa and they're here as a student, not going back home. Is there something that they can come see you, you can communicate back, and vice versa, or is there something in the Elections Act that would prohibit that?
Yes, that is not something that we would typically do, because there is an EL-15 form that needs to be signed by an individual making any changes to the voters list. So if they aren't in front of us, they're unable to sign that form. So that is not something that we would typically do.
Okay, thank you. And we're how many weeks away from the election? 5? Approximately 5. So in 5 weeks, if anyone really wants to vote, they'll make sure they're registered or get home to get registered. We're moving on. Is there anyone else? Okay, yes, sir. State your name and address.
My name is Ray Botten. I'm in front of 740 2nd Avenue East in Owen Sound on the street. So I'm representing those who are homeless. I know Brianna has done well to provide that information to myself, but to the public itself, there might be someone who is homeless that doesn't know they have a right to vote. And I'm just wondering if council could address that publicly tonight, as well as my second question is, I heard that you can be in another area in Ontario if you're a student and you can vote twice. Is that right? Which, to me, as a resident, I have a problem with that, because if you only vote once here and you vote twice here, it's I know it's here and there. Maybe the public needs to understand that too. Thank you. I can sit down.
Madam Clerk.
Yes, through you, Acting Mayor Wright. That is correct. Individuals, as I mentioned before, can vote both where they're going to school and where they would go home typically. And it's similar to if you live in Georgian Bluffs but own property in Owen Sound, you can vote in both those places as well. It's in the Act. It's something that people are eligible to do. As for individuals who are who do not have a permanent lodging place, there is an affidavit that can be filled out when they come to a help center in order to, or if they want to come to the clerk's office in advance, and we can have them fill out that affidavit and get them a voter notification letter so that they're able to vote.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to ask a question? I don't see anyone coming to the microphone, so we'll move on to the reports then. Thank you very much. So we have report 12A is the technical report in Fremont. Very thorough report, and
Thank you, Deputy Mayor
Councillor
Wright.
Zimmer.
This is a technical report regarding a proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment by Braemont Homes for a 13-hectare property located on the north side of 8th Street East, immediately east of the Grey Bruce Health Services site. So this report is in advance of the public meeting, and it's intended to provide council with a description of the application. It outlines the policy framework in which you will consider the applications in terms of the provincial, county, and municipal planning policy. It outlines the process that will follow from the pre-consultation through the complete application and notice of the public meetings. It provides a summary of the technical report at Appendix B. And I would note that this technical report and all the reports and applications submitted with the application are available both on the city's website and by visiting the Planning Division counter at City Hall. The clerk has put on the screen the conceptual plan for the development, and the development proposes a mixed residential development with approximately 43 single-family homes, 22 semis, 37 units in townhouses, as well as 3 larger blocks. So you'll see the larger blocks on the left side of the screen closest to the Grey Bruce Health Services site. And those larger blocks contain multiple dwellings or senior housing or long-term care with a small amount of local convenience commercial type uses. There's estimated 338 residential units in the development. The development does extend the 20th Avenue East at the north end, where it terminates by the Heritage Grove development, and brings it through to 8th Street, where it would join with the Red Hawk development and the 20th Avenue to the south. It also includes 2 stormwater management blocks. It includes a small neighborhood park, as well as a block adjacent to the Telfer Creek that would be floodplain and designated and zone hazard that would be transferred to the municipality. In terms of the official plan, these lands are part of the Sydenham Heights planning area and are available now for development with the extension of the trunk sanitary and water service to this area. Today, the subject lands are designated low and medium density residential as well as hazard. The proposed official plan proposes low, medium, and high density residential as well as open space in the areas of the stormwater of the park and hazard land. The zoning bylaw today is currently rural and hazard, and the proposed zoning to permit the development of the lands is R4 and R5 with special provisions as well as hazard and open space. So the public meeting is scheduled for October 1st. Ms. Potter will be here to do a presentation for council and the public that evening. And this report and all the background, I would remind you, is available on the website or by visiting the planning counter. So if you have questions or comments in advance, I would encourage you to come in and talk to someone in planning and see if you can have any questions cleared up.
Thank you very much, Ms. Coulter. Does anybody have any questions? It's probably Councillor Lemon.
Just one question. There are going to be apartment buildings or apartment-style buildings in that area. What's the height restriction on them? I couldn't see it in there. I must have missed it. Or will that be in the plan of subdivision?
The draft zoning bylaw doesn't specify relief in terms of the height, so I would presume it would be as it would be for the R4 and 5 zones, but we'll make sure that we can speak to that at the public meeting scheduled for October 1st.
Councillor Craig.
And I would add to that that there is some interference with the flight path or recognition that there's flight path study work there to maintain the proper lines for the hospital.
Yeah. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move the recommendation. This is, just to clarify, this is a new subdivision that's up in the Heritage Grove area, sort of Sydenham Heights region, that was would not receive the development charge holiday. So any of this new development would have that additional cost, as that are new services, so that wouldn't come back on the taxpayer.
Okay, thank you very much. I do have a question before I call on the question. The 20th Street, would that be going through as the development is when they do the site plan, will they have the 20th Street marked on there then?
The clerk could just go back to the concept plan. So the 8th Street is at the bottom of the screen or at the south.
Right.
20th Avenue is the road that goes up through the middle of the development with the larger blocks on the left. So it will connect with the dead end of 20th Avenue just between Home Depot and Heritage Grove.
And that's the responsibility of the builder, of
The developer will be required to
developer.
construct that road as well as the P-loop inside,
Right.
inside the development.
And it also says in there that they suggest a traffic circle, a roundabout.
Right now, the city's engineering services division is working with the County of Grey to examine the best options in terms of 8th Street and the intersection of 8th Street and the new proposed 20th Avenue. And one of the options being considered would be a roundabout or traffic circle.
Be a
Yes.
great suggestion. Okay, thank you very much. Then I'll call the question. All those in favor of this recommendation? Again, more good news for the city. City on the move, for sure. Our second report is from the Director of Public Works, Mr. Kapelos.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, please accept my apologies for writing such a long report. Just had to cover a lot of information. On August 27th, GM Blue Plan made a presentation to Council regarding 10th Street Bridge, including the presentation, it was a recommended design alternative. Some questions and concerns were raised during the presentations, most of which are addressed in this report. The main topics discussed include increasing the width of the bridge by 1 additional lane to allow for 2 lanes of traffic designated to link the northwest quadrant and the northeast quadrant of the city. Install a temporary bridge at 11th Street West connecting both sides of the harbor. Increase the width of the bridge in 10th Street and downtown core to improve traffic flow, and keep a portion of the bridge open to allow for 2 lanes of traffic to be maintained during construction. I won't spend much time discussing maintaining 2 lanes of the existing bridge and phasing the construction of the new bridge or widening 10th Street to 6 lanes. There are just too many unknowns in trying to deal with maintaining 2 lanes of the old bridge, and any shoring work would be cost prohibitive, let alone trying to create a safe environment for both workers and the general public using the old bridge during construction. And this is let alone dealing with the extending the construction schedule by as much as 12 months. In terms of widening 10th Street, this is an alternative that can't be justified in any way, both in terms of the financial impact nor the impact it would have on the landscape along 10th Street in the downtown core. The alternative of adding 1 additional lane to the bridge so that 2 lanes can be designated to route traffic from the northwest quadrant of the city to the northeast quadrant of the city is an admirable suggestion, would definitely provide a convenience for those residents and motorists from just north of the city that currently make their way between the 2 quadrants in question. In the best case scenario, this would affect approximately 16% of the overall traffic. With this being said, that is very little likelihood of this actually occurring. A more realistic estimate would be that 8 to 10% of traffic using the bridge would benefit from this alternative. It should also be mentioned that eliminating the possibility of motorists using First Avenue West as a means to either get to 10th Street or to make their way north off of 10th Street in itself will create a problem at the intersection of 10th Street West and 2nd Avenue West that could potentially overload the intersection and create a new focal point of congestion during the morning commute. In my humble opinion, the estimated cost of $2.3 million for this alternative is better spent on projects that can have a much more positive overall impact on the city. The alternative installing a temporary bridge It's one that many people will fall in love with just because of the history associated with the Bailey Bridge, and I'm one of them. But with that being said, there's a great deal of work that has to be done to ensure the bridge can be installed in a safe manner. In order to maximize the benefit of the temporary bridge, a significant amount of work will have to be done with the traffic signal improvements, even in a temporary situation. The current estimate included in the report only includes the bare bones when it comes to traffic control. If the city is willing to consider a temporary bridge, why not explore the possibility of a permanent bridge? If this is something the council wants to consider, then it's a project that stands alone. I should also mention that the city's transportation master plan indicates that a bridge north of 10th Street is not warranted this time or in the near future. Essentially, this is a want and not a need. As such, it's not a recommendation the staff is willing to make at this time. One alternative that wasn't included in the staff report was the possibility of using the 5th lane on the recommended design alternative as a means to ferry motors between the northeast quadrant and the northwest quadrant, where the direction of the traffic will alternate for certain periods of the day. This alternative could be achieved for a somewhat reasonable cost while requiring some minor adjustments to the bridge design, some additional traffic signals, and a moderate road improvements. If council wishes to have staff explore this alternative in greater detail, it can be done while still endorsing the recommendation of the preferred design alternative. In summary, the project team has spent a great deal of time vetting options for the 10th Street Bridge replacement and believe wholeheartedly that the best option is being put forward. In terms of traffic, many cities in North America face congestion during the AM and PM periods. There isn't a magic solution. There will always be some level of congestion during these times. Things that we can do to help the situation are in the process, and that we're in the process of doing is investigating intelligent traffic control systems that use real-time traffic statistics. While the implementation of such a system won't eliminate the traffic congestion, it will definitely have a positive impact on the flow of the traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you, Worship. So 2 weeks ago, I was talking like I didn't really have enough information, and since then, I had the opportunity to sit down with staff on Friday afternoon to talk about the 6-lane bridge, and I was shown a drawing and given an explanation as to why they decided not to, which was fine. It was a good explanation, and plus the cost of $2.3 million is an awful lot of money. So then I asked for the drawing for the 5th lane, showing the one way or part of the day and one way the other part of the day, and there was no drawing because it was never an option, maybe discussed, but not in terms of having a drawing. So I just want to slide down to the summary of this report, and the first sentence on the summary, it says, traffic along 10th Street has always been an issue in terms of the volume at specific times of the day or during the long weekends. In the 4th paragraph down, some of the suggestions and alternatives expressed will help alleviate some of the traffic after and during the installations of the new bridge, but at costs ranging from $1.4 million to $14.2 million. So because of those costs, we end up with the recommendation of a 5-lane bridge, which is status quo, and which includes doing absolutely zero to alleviate the traffic on 10th Street. The idea of using that 5th lane as a, for argument's sake, midnight till noon hour going west to east and noon hour to midnight going east to west, there's not enough information there, but the staff gave me, on Friday, staff gave me maybe a cost of like $130,000 or $140,000, but wanted the weekend to think about it. When I went to meet this afternoon with staff, that number has gone to like $300,000 or $340,000 sort of thing. So I think we have to consider that as an option, because it's, as you see in the report, it could alleviate the traffic from 10th Street somewhere between 10 and 16%. Now, 16% is best case scenario, but even if it's 10% or 8%, that is the only option that we have that can alleviate the traffic on 10th Street. So as much as I'd like to make the decision tonight, I would much rather have, I would make this a motion that we ask for staff to bring back a report in 2 weeks' time, that would include the same recommendation along with the recommendation of the fifth lane with just more information so that, you know, if the cost is $340,000, what is the breakdown of that $340,000 and what does this involve? And make sure that we have all the information before we make our final decision. And I think, I know that I'm sure staff would want to make the decision tonight, but I think I'd just feel better knowing that we at least looked at all the options, and I don't think even staff has really looked at the nuts and bolts of that option either. And I'd like to see that report before I make a decision.
So you're putting a motion on the floor that we get a
That we
further
ask-
report with further information on
Regarding the
regarding
fifth
the
lane.
flow of traffic.
Right.
Okay. Councillor Lemon.
Well, much as I would like another lane on the bridge, I think this is a good idea. In Toronto on Jarvis Street, I don't know whether they still do, but at one time during the morning rush hour, there was an extra lane that was dedicated one direction, and at night it was reversed. So this has been done in other places a long time ago, so it's time for us to move ahead. The other question I've got in terms of the 10th Street traffic issue is all the controllers for the signal lights on 10th Street are connected by wire, I believe, from what we went through previously a number of years ago. And are they not controllable as to time of day?
Through your worship, the existing, I guess, control equipment can actually, you can put the timings in and you can change them based on the time and day, but it's not based on real statistics. It won't give you the opportunity to change those if you notice a great deal of traffic being generated from one direction or the other. You anticipate it, you program the lights, and then hopefully the coordination is maintained, and you'll notice you get a lot of green lights at one time in one direction versus the red lights, that sort of thing. But again, with the existing equipment that we have, you'll find that you're losing time every day by a few seconds, so it's really almost a full-time job just keeping the lights in coordination with the existing equipment. The equipment that I'm mentioning here, the real-time data, will actually give us an opportunity to make sure the traffic's flowing in the best possible way. I mean, it's not going to get rid of the traffic, but it can help improve the flow of traffic.
What we're looking at is computer control, which will, with sensors in the pavement, which will...
No sensors in the pavement. That stuff is ancient equipment. We're looking at cameras.
And they can read the traffic level.
Oh, absolutely, and you can control them better. You can do so much more. And Sean and I have looked into, we had the presentation a few weeks ago regarding intelligent lighting and smart cities.
Yes.
And the equipment that we're looking at can actually do traffic counts every single day, pedestrian counts, cyclists. They can keep track of whatever we want and be able to have that data readily available at any time. And this is something we have to start doing and ensuring that it's done as part of our minimum maintenance standards in terms of snow removal, ice and snow control. So, by the time this 10th Street Bridge is completed, we hopefully will have a report to council talking about this intelligent street lighting and the benefits that it can have.
Okay, but my question is, can we link those lights to a computer system which will allow changing as the situation changes?
The new lights, or the things that we proposed?
Yes.
Yes, and the whole idea would be also to control the traffic signals on 8th and 9th Street as well, just to make sure we get maximum flow on all three streets.
Thank you very much. That's music to my ears.
Councillor Kepke.
Thank you. With respect to traffic flow on 10th Street, when the lights change and emergency vehicles come through and they use the optimizer, it changes the flow of the traffic, and how long does it take to reset that?
Thank you, Your Worship. It takes several cycles to catch up and to get back on track. So we could be looking at maybe 5 or 10 minutes altogether.
So it resets itself.
It resets itself, but then it starts trying to get back to where it's supposed to be before it was interrupted by the emergency vehicles.
Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, back to the motion on the table, Your Worship. I think we're all mindful of the time constraints we're under in terms of the project, but I'd certainly support a 2-week delay to get something back on this. You know, I grew up in Vancouver, BC, where every bridge in the Lower Mainland has an extra lane that goes one way in the morning and one way in the evening. And it's a way of life, and it helps the traffic move a lot more efficiently. As someone who does business on the east side but lives on the west side, I avoid First Avenue East turning onto 10th Street like the plague, because it is so difficult to get where you want to go around that corner at rush hour. I think we may find that if we can come up with a solution here, the numbers will actually be higher than 16%. If it's a reasonable alternative that people can use to get from east to west and west to east at periods of the day, it'll probably get used a lot more highly. So I would certainly support a 2-week delay just to get a report back on that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. Question to the clerk. When's our next council meeting?
Through you, Acting Mayor. The next council meeting is October 1st, so it would actually be a 3-week.
3 weeks. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call the question, but I just want to say in answer, I drive that First Avenue all the time, and if people could read better, then they wouldn't block the entrance to the drugstore, and they wouldn't block the intersections, and traffic would move. But people have trouble reading signs. However, anyone else wish to speak to this motion that we are going to send this back for further information and have a report back in 3 weeks? Councillor Kepke?
Just a question on the timing. Is 3 weeks going to be a detriment to our granting, et cetera?
We have how many? We only have 2 council meetings after that, don't we? After the next one, there's 2 more. Yes, so we would have to deal with it in the next 2 meetings.
I'm asking right now, is 3 weeks, delaying this 3 weeks, is that critical right now at this point?
I wouldn't say it's critical. I'd like to point out, though, that we could actually, you could approve, proceed with the recommended design tonight, and we could still look into the best use of that 5th lane. Like, they're not linked together. They're not necessarily linked together. It's really the use of the 5th lane that you're looking at what you want to do. You want to maintain the status quo, or you want to change it somehow. But the bridge itself will still have 5 lanes. So will a 3 weeks delay be critical? No, because it'll still be a month after that, and within the 3 weeks, you know, I guess I'm going all over the place here, right?
But we're talking.
It won't affect our funding. It really shouldn't affect anything. We'll make up that time somewhere else.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Leary.
Yeah, I just want to make the point that I think we should wait anyways, because this is an option that wasn't even talked about in the public meeting. So we have 3 weeks councillors can talk to the public, and people can, you know, at least have some kind of discussion on what this 5th lane is going to do one way, and I think we're better off waiting anyway.
Okay. Peter?
Worship, I would be voting against the bridge unless there's some improvement, as has been suggested tonight. To me, the status quo is not acceptable. What was being proposed is not the status quo, it's a move forward. I can support that, but same old doesn't work.
We're just asking for information on traffic flow, Councillor Lemon. All those in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. We are down to the consent agenda. Councillor Lemon?
Yes, Your Worship.
Oh.
Moved by myself that City Council receive items 13A to 13D on the consent agenda dated September 10th, 2018.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you like to go through the consent agenda?
Through you, Acting Mayor Wright, on the consent agenda this evening is comments on a planning notice from Meaford and minutes for receipt from the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority. Adrian Jones was issued a home occupation license for Labyrinth Photography and Art at 843 7th Street East. And lastly, there is correspondence received which is presented for the information of council. A full listing is available at 13D.
Okay, any questions on any of those three items? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That carries. Councillor Gregg, do you wish to speak to the Sabo Conservation minutes?
I'd be welcome to take any questions, but there's not a whole lot there that's too pertinent to council.
Okay, thank you. Is there any comments on the correspondence? There are no committee meetings for approval. There are no matters postponed. There were no motions for which notice was previously given. So we have additional business. And Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to give a little bit of an update again. We've been busy working, getting the next Young Professionals Network event set up. We do have a date for the next one. It's November 8th. It'll be done at the Tom Thompson Art Gallery. It's the same time that Community Curators is going to be on exhibit in the North Gallery as well. So it's going to be one of those events that we get to really kind of bring some of the younger individuals in the county to our gallery and get them to kind of see what it's all about. So if you're not familiar with Young Professionals Network, it's a platform where individuals 40-ish and under can all get together from 9 counties, or 9 municipalities in the county, and get together and start doing your networking, whether you have a business opportunity, you're a professional that's just looking to make some new friends, make some connections within the communities. So it's a great time, and it's a great opportunity to showcase our gallery. So that is my update. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wright. I was wondering if staff could provide a status on the update on 3rd Avenue East road allowance in front of the water treatment plant and when that's going to be open again.
Through you, Your Worship, thank you for the question. God willing and weather permitting, we're looking at 3 weeks. You may have noticed today, well, maybe not because the road is so close, but they've started laying a string line to put in the sidewalk, the curbs. They've laid about 100 meters of formwork for the sidewalks, so they're starting to work on the hard surfacing, and substantial completion should be estimated to be done in 3 weeks, and with a little bit of cleanup after that.
Councillor Kepke.
Just further, does the sidewalk completion still require both lanes of the road to be closed?
Through you, Your Worship, no, it doesn't. But what the process, how it works, is that you do all your concrete work first, then you come in and you fill up your road. Like you'll notice that the curbs and gutter and the sidewalk, even though it's adjacent, they'll do all the formwork and get ready to go to have the pour roughly about the same time. Once they start hauling in concrete, they'll just keep going like maniacs and bring in extra guys to help with the finishing along the curb and the sidewalks. And then after that, the road will be low, so they have to fill it up with the granular A, and then after that, shape it and pave. So usually that's what happens.
Okay, thank you. And I just have the one, and I just wanted to explain to the public that when they send letters to City Hall, and we do get letters at City Hall, if they don't sign the letter goes in the garbage, and the councillors never see it. And so if you do have some opinions or critiques or some advice or something you want the councillors to follow up on, unless you sign your name, we will never see it. So although we appreciate letters and comments from the general public, you need to sign your name so that we know who's sending the letter. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Lemon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move by myself that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
All those in favor? That motion carries. We are now in formal session.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor O'Leary, that action taken Committee of the Whole in considering public meetings deputations and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda committee minutes, matters pertaining, matters postponed rather, and motions for which notice was previously given and additional business be confirmed by this council.
Thank you. All those in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. Are there any notices of motion tonight? Not seeing any. Bylaws. Madam Clerk.
Through your acting mayor, right? The only bylaw we have on tonight's agenda is the confirmatory bylaw.
Okay, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor O'Leary, that bylaw number 2018-134 be passed and enacted.
Thank you. All those in favor? That motion carries. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.